Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Hot Mess Moments, episode number 10.
Oh my gosh, 10 episodes. You know, a lot of people said we wouldn't make it this far. Those
I
people,
did.
Yeah, I was going to say those people are you and me.
It's so true.
No, I'm very excited. This week, I'm going to give everyone a pre-warning. We're going to be going off.
We are.
Officially, in the words of Detox. I've had it officially. No, men ain't shit. That's what this title is going to be called. Men ain't shit. I've got stuff to say.
Yeah, for those that don't know, this is why I was so excited for us to cover this episode, because I knew Beth would have so much to say about this Claire-centric episode of Lost. And I've got some feelings about this episode of The Nanny. I don't know where to begin, so we're just going to introduce ourselves.
I mean, that is a pretty solid place to begin. I like that you and I never introduce ourselves until about like 5 minutes in, so we're doing much better. It's 2 minutes in.
We're working. We're doing the damn thing. 10
episodes in, who said you can't teach old dogs new tricks?
It's true, and we're getting up there.
I'm an old dog. People call me a bitch.
And I'm an old trick. No.
It's so true.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dylan Zahner, aka 8-Bit Dylan. You can find me on all social media platforms. I have been obsessed with the game Mass Effect recently. So if you're really into that, hop by my streams, twitch.tv/8-Bit Dylan. Every Monday and Wednesday, I'm playing Mass Effect. And on Fridays, I play horror games. Beth, where can they find you?
My name is Beth Dixon, also known as AugustaWind11. You can find me on all my social media handles at AugustaWind11, including Twitch, where I do some podcasting and I play a lot of collaborative games like Among Us, and I do some villager hunts and Animal Crossing. It's all around silly, dumb time, and I love it.
Yeah, and make sure to also go check us out at Hot Mess Moments on Twitter. If you have not, you get into it. Get into it.
Listen, we are hot. We're mostly messes, but we are the moment.
Get into it. Get into the moment. Speaking of moments, next week will be a first for us because we're having our first guest.
I'm so excited!
Same.
I'm so excited. For those that are huge Lost fans, we will be having a wonderful guest who has his own podcast with Josh Wigler over on post-show recaps called Down the Hatch. They're currently in the middle of, or at the end of season 5. So they have been going on for a lot longer. If you want more Lost content, people who are very analytical, I just know both of their podcasting styles. I've never actually listened because obviously we are a spoiler-free podcast, so I'm not listening to their coverage. But we're going to have Mike Bloom on. He's amazing. I'm so excited. Mike has been so supportive of both of us on this adventure, and so we're very excited to have him. He specifically requested he come on for episode 11 because he wanted to see my reaction, so I know it's going to be a moment next week. I'm so excited. I'm also nervous.
Yeah, episode 11. If there were 2 episodes in season 1 that get talked about the most, it's Walkabout and what you're about to experience next week. So I can't wait.
Here's the thing, though. We Ben knew that I'm going to make a big deal out of all moments. I'm like, okay, did you watch Game of Thrones?
I did not. I saw the first season. I didn't watch past that.
Okay, so this is not going to connect with you, but maybe it's somebody who's listening or watching will connect with this. I feel a sense of dread the way I did for the whole week leading up between episodes. Was it 2 and 3 or 1 and 2 of the last season, regardless of the episode before the Battle of Winterfell. I literally all week I was like, who's dying? Everyone I love is gonna be destroyed. And it was just a whole thing. And now I'm sitting here oh God, what's happening next week? What's happening?
Wait, I told you it's the start of the second arc, and we are hot in it. So
it's so exciting. And I say conversely, actually, this episode of The Nanny today really kicks off okay, it's kind of hit it's like comedic strides now. So now it's just like what you would expect from a typical sitcom. Like they're going to build
Yep.
off certain things with relationships, but for the most part, it's just like a typical sitcom where it's about the strengths of the jokes and the scenes and all that kind of stuff. So now that the exposition is over with the nanny. So now it's just about building upon what we know.
She had style, she had flair, she was there. That's how she became the nanny.
All right, let's get into the nanny. So this is episode 11. It's called A Plot for Nanny. And my overall rating of this episode, I would probably give it a 7 out of 10. It had some really funny moments, but overall, it wasn't like my favorite. Sorry, but there are some really cool things that happen within this episode that make me excited to see where they're going to go. This is probably, in my opinion, the most Lucille Ball episode so far because that urn scene with the ash is
the ashes falling in the shirt, like covering it up with her foot and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
I was like, this is peak Lucille Ball. Love it.
We're just getting into it. So like I said, the exposition is over. They're really starting to find their stride. And I think that so just a little bit of background, I listened to a new interview which came out over the past week with Danny Davis, who played Niles. And he said that season 1 was very touch and go. Like they would record a couple of episodes and then be told show's not working out. And then they would come back and record a couple of episodes and be like, well, we actually have more ratings. And then the ratings would fall again. And they would go, okay, I guess we're not going to have much of a show. So they didn't know episode to episode if the show was even going to continue. So they would come in and record like 3 or 4 episodes at a time and then be done. And I actually, now that I know that makes sense with what we've been saying with sometimes it feels like there's inconsistency of time, that there's inconsistency of what's happening here. So more so in this season than any other one. And then apparently what happened is they switched from I think they were on Monday nights. They switched them to Wednesday or something like that. And they found their audience and it just was, and the reruns over the summer of season 1, that's where they found their audience. And I think they found that, oh, this is a family sitcom. The family's home from school. Like everybody can enjoy it. And then season 2, they really took off. So having that context, I think makes a lot more sense for what we're seeing with like them trying out different kinds of styles. But I agree that this is like, besides the imaginary friend, we really start to see physical comedy come in here. And I think it's because they realized, oh, we need some more of this. Cause I think that maybe that's when the ratings got higher.
Yeah. I also, it kind of makes sense like how they were recording because we're seeing a lot of inconsistencies in characters or like plot lines, specifically with Maggie. Like she was dating this guy and now she's like seeing this guy named Philip and I'm just like, okay, I guess fuck that other guy's drag, I guess. Because
here's the thing. I mean, that is just like very. What we're trying to see here is that Maggie is just playing the field, like that she is so boy crazy and like, you know, there's so-and-so is so adorable and so hot and so I want to date them, and then the next guy comes around or she gets dumped or whatever, and that's just gonna be kind of consistent honestly for like the rest of it. And it's like her maturity or whatever has happened. It's she came in, she was shy, she didn't have really much of her personality, and now she's really coming into her own because she has someone like Fran to teach her the ways of dating and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So let's get into breaking down those. So we start off and it's Fran's birthday, and Fran is feeling very old. She's not that old, but she's feeling very old. And Sylvia is there.
I can relate.
Yeah. Sylvia's there, and I'm already going to say it. Outfit of the episode, Sylvia.
Oh, I kept sitting there watching this episode going, oh, crap. Fran has some looks in this episode, and I'm here for this. I'm here for a Sylvia outfit of the episode.
Sylvia with the lime green, like pinkish outfit. I was living for it. I was like, yes, queen. I also don't get, I still don't get, they continue to use Sylvia for like obesity jokes. I don't see her as she's skinny. Like she's not even close. Like in my opinion, not even close to being overweight. So I'm very confused. Like visually, she does not look like she has a lot of weight on her.
I would say she is a very typical mid-size to like the thinner size of it's thinner end of mid-size. So she's probably like a size 10.
Yeah,
so she's really not that big.
Yeah.
But I put it out there again contextually. 1993, rise of supermodels. Like the women who were like Fran is like a size 2. So and she's like I don't know how else to say this, but really the 90s were all about super skinny women. And if you were above this certain weight, and this carried well into the 2000s, as a millennial who went through the phase of like having to have like the lowest rise jeans. And if you had any sort of curves or anything, if your thighs touched, it was a bad thing. Like this is literally the beginning of that. This is why millennial women are so triggered by the idea that like these fashions are coming back that were really damaging to our psyche. And shows like this, even though I love The Nanny, it perpetuated these stereotypes that mid-sized women were like these huge obese like women, which even if they were like, that was like the worst thing in the world. And so it's the one thing that really bugs me about this show, but at the same time, I've been able to like put it on rest because I think I will say it again. My favorite part about it is that Sylvia is so unfazed by it. She just kind of takes it and just like lets it like, you know, run off or like rain on a raincoat. Like she's just like, whatever, and continues on with her life. And I'm like, you better work. Like you never see her like go, how dare you? Or even make a comment. She just like continues on with her life.
Yeah. I guess like for me, it's always weird though, because like, she visually does not look any different than other women on the show. Like she's not as skinny as Fran, but
she's curvier. Like she has bigger bosoms and she has a larger hip and all that kind of stuff. Like in that way, you know what I mean?
I guess, but like, I guess maybe it's just how I was raised. I just don't equate that to weight. I just equate that to you're a mom and you've got big boobs and a butt. So I guess it's like,
but that's also like you're a woke millennial.
I guess, but
you know what I mean?
I just remember, and again, like this is from my own lens. I remember growing up because I grew up in the 90s and the 2000s. And while there was this rise of like supermodels, there were like morbidly obese and obese people within the 90s and the 2000s. So
of course. But what I'm trying to say is like when you're on television, how many of them were on primetime sitcoms besides maybe Roseanne? And were a lead female character or a recurring character that people liked, you know what I mean? Like Sylvia, normally fat people in general, but especially fat women are seen as villains.
Yeah.
Period.
I guess what's confusing to me is it'd be like saying someone's tall when they're clearly short. So it's like,
no, totally.
It doesn't make any sense like for this show. And that's why I kind of like was taken aback at the beginning of this. I was like, they really keep like putting her in this box that she visually does not fit in. Because I remember like even then, like there was women that looked like Sylvia that were not called like fat outside of the show. And so like that's where I'm like, I get where the show is trying to go, but I want to slide it in a bit because it's like
good. Yeah.
I don't understand why this is like a recurring theme. I get it's the 90s and the 2000s, but I'm seeing it from the 2021 lens, and it just it gets annoying after a while because you're like there's so many better qualities to Sylvia's character. Why do we keep harping on the fact that she's bigger when she's not even bigger?
And I will say, I do think that even though they do, the humor slightly changes.
Okay.
She will always be a scapegoat for that, but instead of being about her looks and size, it will be about her style and that she's constantly eating. It's about her constantly eating later on, which is fine because she will just be eating everything in sight.
Yeah.
But it's not about her weight at the end of the day. Like that's what I think, that there are some things that they adjusted along the way. And I totally agree with you. Like, as someone who has been mid-size and now plus size, like her entire adult life. And when I was in high school was a thin, muscular, like fit girl. Like, I've run the gambit of what all the sizes are. And because of these kind of shows and the messaging that we get in magazines and all these other media, I have never felt like I fit whatever society wanted me. And now I'm 32, almost 33. And I'm going, you know what? Fuck everything. Because there will never be a size where somebody looks at me and goes, oh, you're exactly what society wants you to be.
Absolutely.
So having all of this in our heads now as we look at it, I think it's absolutely right to call it out. And I think it's absolutely right to have this conversation. And I'm hopeful that, I don't remember when they start kind of making that shift. I feel like it's going to be like season 3. Like, it really does take them a while. But it is important to call out.
Yeah, it doesn't like take away too much from it. It's just, it is an annoyance. And it's like, much like how we've pointed out, other elements of the show does not age well.
No, definitely not.
I do want to point out, though, in this beginning birthday scene, and specifically this episode, we're clearly seeing a change in Maggie's fashion as she slowly becomes closer to becoming Fran. She's experimenting more, but she was giving me like the Craft Buffy vibes with this velvet dress when she walks in for the birthday. She's got like a little choker on, a velvet dress. She's looking very like, I would see this girl at a coffee shop reading a vampire, like Dracula or something. Like,
which is funny because then the next scene, she's getting into one of Fran's like almost like leather vest kind of outfits, and it's in all black with a beret and everything. And she's actually going to a coffee shop.
yeah. Like, I just love this vibe that Maggie's giving, and I would have been friends with her in school. Like, if I saw this gothy girl like walk in, I'd be like, hey girl, that's my people. Hey.
I think it's interesting too, because I don't think that they necessarily were going for like this gothy look. I think you know what I mean? Whenever I envision Maggie, I envision her in something like very 90s, like upper class kind of conservative look with white stockings. Like, that is what I think about. She always wears white pantyhose, and it's so funny to me because like that did not carry through the 90s. Like, I never see anybody wear that unless it's for a cosplay or something like that. But like, she was considered in fashion at the time. You know what I mean? So it's just really, then I think part of that is always to, why would the show ever want Fran to not look the most fabulous, even if Maggie is like a huge fashionista kind of person? So she will always have this kind of somewhat drab in comparison to Fran kind of look. But
no, that makes sense.
But I totally agree. Nowadays, that would be a cute goth look, and I'm with the choker. Yes.
I was like, I could see someone rocking this. So it's Fran's birthday, and for Fran's birthday, Sylvia gets her 4 plots in a cemetery for Sylvia, Fran's dad, Morty, Fran, and Fran's potential partner in the future. So they go to this mortician place or the funeral parlor, and
I like mortician place better.
The mortician place,
the mortician place.
It's not very. We'll get into the puns later. I was gonna say a pun, and I was like, this show covers all the puns.
They do. They really do.
So they go to the funeral parlor, and basically this is Sylvia's shtick to try and get Fran to meet the mortician to potentially go out on a date with him. And there are some things I want to flag here. One, the mortician, not hot.
Oh, really? I thought he was cute. I wouldn't say he was extraordinarily hot, but I think he was cute.
Did not find him attractive at all.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think it's because he reminded me of someone on my adoptive father's side. They used to annoy me. And like, he talked the same way. And I was like,
oh, okay.
Ooh. Gross. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sorry for anyone on audio.
Oh yeah, sorry. I always forget that there are people who actually get triggered by that sound and like are like, oh, that actually makes me gag. So I apologize. But yeah, actually, I would maintain that I don't think he's like the hottest person in the world kind of thing. But I do love the fact that, you know, this is really the first episode where we see Sylvia really interfere with Fran's dating life. We've seen Sylvia interfere with how to present Fran to family and all these other things. But like the theme here is that Sylvia is a yenta.
Yeah.
She wants to go in and like make things happen the way she wants to and mess with people's lives. And the show has taught me that's called a yenta.
Well, I love it. I love Sylvia in this episode. And I love that she is always meddling and she's always got a plan, which is very similar to what Fran is like. Fran's always got a plan. So I love that she's set up this date with the mortician, or she's like trying to get them to know each other. The mortician asks Fran out, and I just kept thinking in my head, I was like, Fran, you can do so much better. like do you? And like the writers are doing it too, where they're like beating it over your head, like they're gonna date, like, or they're like, gee, I wonder who Fran should go for. Like,
oh, you mean her and Maxwell?
Her and Maxwell, yeah.
Okay,
like,
I was like, yeah, that's the point of the episode. Yeah. It's like that she's gonna date the mortician. Gotcha.
Yeah. So there's this gag that I was so here for, and when she's gonna go out on the date, Gracie's like, I don't want you to leave. And she's like, who's going to read me to bed? And Fran pulls out a VHS tape of her reading. What was the story again?
Scruples. Which was like a famous romance novel in the, like, I think it was the late 80s actually, but it was a book that's pretty racy. And it's, first of all, why don't people do this more often?
Yes.
Like,
I was like, first off, I would absolutely buy an audiobook that Fran Drescher is reading to me.
Okay, Fran Drescher, please, first of all, just please listen to us in general. I love you. Wait, hold on. Right next to me. I have your books. Hi. Please listen. But anyway, could you please go out of your way? Like, I would pay to have her. Oh my God. I would hate this and love this at the same time. I need Fran Drescher to read the entire Twilight series.
Yeah.
An audiobook. Could you imagine her being like, Edward, we're so protective over Bella.
Yes.
Jacob was a werewolf.
And then the baby looked weird. I don't just all I know about Twilight.
Renesmee. What a dumb name. Like, it'd be so good. Oh God. I
would love that. Sylvia and Fran just going back and forth reading page after page.
But there's their commentary about what they're reading too. I would pay all the money for this. All I'm saying is like, this is $1 billion idea.
So investors, where are you at? Get on this.
Yes.
It's right there. It's on a plate.
It's on a plate.
So this VHS tape gag is so funny. Because I just love how she acts in it, where she's like clearly the one that's into the book, and then she like makes it family friendly. And it's just so funny. And
she removed her negligee and folded it neatly and then put it into bed.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. So I really thought it was interesting because in this moment when Fran leaves for the date, Brighton has a conversation with Maxwell, basically telling him you need to lock it down. You need to and I think what Brighton is hinting at here is like, you need to go after her. Like clearly Brighton sees, that's how I was reading into it, where I think Brighton sees that Maxwell is into Fran and he's basically like, I really like Fran. I like Fran a lot. Fran does a lot. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like trying to get, and Maxwell just doesn't see it. He's like not getting it. And so he's seeing it as, I need to make sure that she by locking it down, I need to lock down the rules of the house to make sure she's not bringing a guy over. In actuality, he's jealous, and that is what is spurring him to follow these rules, is because he doesn't want to see Fran with another guy because he has feelings for Fran.
I just have to say,
What?
This week was the most like the biggest time that they have really hit over the head. The writers have right. So like with the jokes and the slights and all this stuff, that Fran and Maxwell clearly have feelings for each other in some capacity, right? And I went into this being like, I really just want to like see how long it would take Dylan to really figure out what's between them, because I haven't seen anybody watch the show for the first time, and I hated that you got it immediately in the first episode. So I just liked that. I was like, oh really? You see like this sexual tension happening between? That's so weird. No, they're like co-parenting. What's wrong with you? Like tried so hard, and I've had a few people like message me and be like, but like that's the whole point. It's kind of, you said it's like The Sound of Music. What happens in The Sound of Music? I'm like, Dylan may not know what The Sound of Music is. Like, shush.
Oh, yeah, I know. Like, I thought it was painfully obvious after like the first or second episode, just simply based off body language alone. But this one, they're beating it over your head. I will say, I don't think Fran has a thing for Maxwell. I think Maxwell has a thing for Fran. I think she still sees him as like this like person she can sort of be flirty with, but it's still a professional relationship for her.
Yeah, listen, there's business and pleasure are going to mix from a couple episodes ago. Yeah, I think that going back to something you said about Brighton, I think this is where I think it's really interesting, right? Obviously, Maxwell and Brighton have a really unique relationship where it's a very father-son kind of, Brighton is such a pretentious, like entitled little boy who is, everything is self-serving. So he's going to do something that is self-serving. To him, it is not good for Fran to be out there dating because he's got things that he needs her to do for him. Yeah. So Dad, you need to lock it down. And like, I think I've always maintained in this episode, it's not about him being like, oh, my dad and Fran like could get together. It's more like, Dad, control your staff. Like, I have things that need to be done here. And Maxwell is not overtly as much like Brighton in that way, but is incredibly self-centered and self-serving. Like, that is also who Maxwell is. So in this situation, it's always like interesting to see how they mirror each other, Maxwell and Brighton. And in this situation, I think it's what you were saying was like the gray in between everything. Like you have like the overt, like, oh no, I need her around for all these other things. And we can't have her having a social life that doesn't involve us, And so I think that what you're saying is a really good observation, but not necessarily what I always first think.
Yeah, the reason I thought that way was because specifically Gracie being in that scene, kind of tying on to what Brighton is saying, I felt the way I was seeing it was that the kids get it. They see Fran as like basically their mom in this sense. And they're like telling Maxwell, like, nudge, nudge, lock it down. How Maxwell takes that is like, well, she's my nanny. I need to like make sure she's like being a good example. Like, he even says himself, I've never had to make this rule for any of my nannies before because you're so attractive. And
imagine having your boss being like, I can't have you having sex in my house because you're so attractive.
Oh, if only I had that problem. Just kidding. If only
I'm sure Nigel has said that to you before.
I will say, funny story. Very quick. So I did have an awkward moment with one of my bosses once back when I was a waiter at a hotel, and I worked there for a year, and he was clearly gay, and I was working up in the penthouse like office suites, and so was he, and I wasn't going to do anything because I was dating someone at the time, but I went to go use the restroom and this motherfucker followed me in, and guy code, whenever
folded his negligee neatly, put it away, went to bed.
Yeah, he did that. No, So I don't know if you know this, Beth, but when guys go to use the urinal, there's like an unspoken weird code of like where you stand.
Okay.
So it's
Not next to each other, I'm assuming, right? Like
no,
there's
not
like
but if you do, it's not like usually that weird, but like it is kind of like it's just a weird. I feel like it's
like if there's a whole wall and you chose the one right next to somebody, like that's weird, right?
But it's also weird if like I'm on one end and you're on the far other end. Like that's also kind of weird because then if someone comes in, they have to like go in them. I don't know. It's weird. And then like the height of the urinal sometimes matters. I don't know. It's weird. So anyway, there's like 4 urinals and he picks the one right next to me and watches me pee. Like,
that is weird.
Fucking weird. And so
when you say watches you pee, where is he watching? The pee hit the urinal? Or where is he watching source?
You know where he's watching.
So he's watching the source of the peeing. Okay.
Yeah. And so I immediately got so uncomfortable, walked away, washed my hands, and like left the penthouse area and just did not work up there for the rest of the day. But that was his last day of work. That's why he was this like.
Oh, so that's why he was like, I can finally watch Dylan pee.
Yeah, he was weird. Which if you're in a pee, go for it. And not like whatever is your deal. But
was he peeing?
No. Yeah.
Just sitting there with his dick out and not peeing?
Well, he was pretending to pee and he wasn't actually.
You can't pretend to pee on a urinal, bitch. You can hear and see.
I know, it was weird.
What? No. If you're going to follow someone in there, you might as well have to pee somewhat. Like,
yeah.
Like,
it was
listen,
weird.
I don't know the rules and the regulations of a traditionally men's bathroom, but even I know that's weird.
Yeah, it was super strange.
Okay,
sorry,
well,
and in this essay, this is why I relate to Fran.
No. Okay, so in this essay, I will relate to Dylan relating to Fran. I once had a vice president that I worked for. There was 2 stalls in the women's bathroom, and at the school I worked with, the office environment I was in was very toxic. It was awful, very abusive in many ways. And my vice president would like shit on my director who would shit on me, right? So, but she was always so nice and bubbly, but you knew that that was not the case. Anyway, she always talked to you if you were in the stall next to her. And I hated that. And the thing that I don't know if people who don't have periods know this, but if you have to get a pad out, it's like the loudest thing in the world. Like you unwrap, it's like, and then you take it off the thing, and then you have to take the other one, like it is forever. And she would sit there like while I'm trying to like make things as quiet as possible, whatever. And she would come in and be like, "Who's in the stall next to me?" And I was like, "I don't want to talk to you."
No.
And it was so awkward. And like, I recently started talking to another one of my coworkers. We were catching up and she was like, "Did you ever have this experience with our vice president?" And I was like, "Yes." And so like, literally that is what she's known for now, is that she talks to you when you're like trying to have very personal moments.
Jeez, that's awful.
Just putting it out there. Like, unless you have a certain relationship, like, I will talk to my friends, continue to talk with them if we walk in together. Don't do it. Don't strike up a conversation in the stall next to you. Unless it's an emergency. I'm here to help.
Yeah, that's just weird. That doesn't happen in the traditional men's restroom for the most part.
I feel like the men's restroom is very like quiet and just like get your stuff done and go. Kind of.
Yeah. It's pretty much that. Unless there's like a kid, then it's like really cute to see the dad try to wash the kid's hand. Like,
that's cute.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm like, oh, you're a dad. That's so cute.
My brother was recently talking about how I'm sorry that we're on such a tangent, but this is funny.
Yeah.
Like literally, my brother was just telling us like the first time he used a urinal when he was like 5, he didn't know that he was just like, I pulled down my pants, like all of everything. And I just remember looking over, there was a kid who was like a year or 2 older than me, and he just looked at me like,
He's like,
"I'm doing it wrong, kid."
Sir.
And my brother goes, "I was so embarrassed, I just pulled my pants up and left and then peed my pants."
Oh no! Oh my God.
Little Chris.
I hope no one's listening to this in like a public space.
I hope they are. Honestly, embarrass my brother. Here we are.
So back to the nanny. Circling back to the nanny.
Well, how did we even get on this?
So you're talking about like the way that Maxwell was talking to Fran.
Oh yeah,
and
that means you're uncomfortable with your coworker. I started talking about being comfortable. Okay.
And then it all came back to P. Hey, it didn't come back to BDSM.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we are. I'm gonna skip over a little bit of this because a lot of this is just like humor and puns and mortician puns, and so basically Brighton is trying to convince her not to date at breakfast, and then it is established that there is a house rule of no boyfriends in your room. Basically, that is like the house rule. But I have to talk about this really silly Cece scene where Cece shows up and Niles is there. And Niles, like, there was this running gag throughout the episode where Cece and Maxwell would like just take things from Niles on his day. Like he's just like about to enjoy himself. And they would just
it's his day off, or he's off the clock and like he's fixed himself a brandy and a cigar, and Maxwell just takes it. He fixes himself breakfast and Cece just takes it.
Yeah. And then this is where we get the most overt, like clear, hit it over your head until later when Sylvia's in the bedroom where Cece's like, oh, you don't have any like funny like jabs at me. You don't have anything to like say to me. And he basically talks about how, oh yeah, Maxwell went up into Fran's room to talk about having sex in her room, and
about the potential of having sex in her room. It's just so like Niles always has such an artfully crafted way to paint exactly what he wants, without telling a lie at the same time.
Yeah, it was so good. And then that further kind of funny moment happens where they are it's Sylvia, Fran in the bedroom, and they're talking about who your perfect guy would be. Like the perfect guy is not going to come knocking on the door and then
say, "Here I am," and then he goes, "Oh, there you are," which is technically he didn't say, "Here I am." He said, "There you are."
Yeah.
Which I know this isn't a feminist thing. That's not what the writers meant, but I will fully take it in a feminist way. Like, bitch, you better love yourself like your own lover. Bitch, you better love yourself like your own lover.
Yeah, this is definitely clearly the 90s. Like,
no one was writing that way, but I wrote it that way in my head.
Yeah, I love it. And I thought it was really funny. The audience was clearly living for it. Honestly, ever since you pointed out that this was filmed in front of a live audience, I've appreciated the laugh track of the audience laughing more because you can clearly tell when the energy they are giving to the actors.
And this is where the Lucille Ball portion will always thrive, right? Because so much of Lucille, like if you want, like the most famous Lucille Ball scene when she's in the chocolate factory, all of that was perpetuated even more because of the live audience that they were shooting it in front of, right? Where she could just get more and more ridiculous, have more and more chocolates, do all these different things. The same thing happens in the show with especially Fran, but Niles gets it a lot too. Sometimes Cece, like just like this building off of the humor and just like these are expert actors, and I just love it.
And then the episode ends with us figuring out that the mortician that Fran has been after is gonna go off to clown college. So
he kind of just fell into the family business, didn't really want to be an undertaker, didn't want to be a mortician. He's sick of being around people being sad all the time, and he wants to go make people happy. So he's gonna go to college. He's gonna become a professional clown. So this is, just like take it or leave it, kind of like whatever humor. And then it just has some, honestly, I think that some of those jokes kind of fall flat at the very end where Fran's like, no, he was a literal clown, like blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, great, whatever. But the whole point of that is to, like you were saying, like we've been already talking about, is to push up the fact that, there's clearly some kind of connection that is starting to form or has the potential to form between Fran and Maxwell.
Yeah. I agreed. And it's happening a lot sooner than I thought it was. I didn't think it was going to happen in season 1. I thought it was going to happen in like season 2 or 3. So I'm shocked that it's happening so soon. And then we end off with them in the kitchen. And there's also this moment where Maggie and Fran are relating to their boy troubles. Again, further emphasizing that Maggie and Fran are very similar. And overall, like I said, decent episode. I gave it a 7 out of 10. If I had to choose an MVP for this episode of The Nanny, I would give it to... I'm going to give it to Sylvia.
I knew you were going to say that. I'm sitting here and I was just like, how is this not right off the top of his tongue the way he's been talking about her this episode?
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Sylvia. Sylvia was really funny this episode. She really set up a lot and ran with it. I think what solidified Sylvia in that spot was when Sylvia and Fran are in the room and they're like joking about like, you're never going to find the perfect guy. Like, I thought that was so funny.
I need a guy who values my opinion. Thank you so much. Which tie should I go for?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I really value your opinion, Miss Fine. And yeah, exactly.
It's so silly.
So good.
If I had to give an LVP, I would probably give it to... I thought everyone was pretty good this episode. I don't know. I don't know who to give the LVP to. Oh, the mortician. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's solid.
That's a cop out on my part because I really liked everyone else. I thought Niles was funny. Cece was funny. Sylvia was funny.
Can I actually give an LVP even though I'm not?
Yeah.
Fran.
I disagree. I thought Fran was good.
I hate that she just dumps somebody because he wants to make people happy.
I know if Nigel, like before we were married, was like, this is my trajectory in life. This is what I want to do. And then immediately is like, I'm going to actually take 4 years and go to, or like however many years and go to clown college. I'd be like, I really don't know you that well.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. They've been out on 1-2 dates.
That's true.
Like, you don't know where this is going. And the whole point is like, he's not a bad person. It's not like he's doing something really creepy, although I find clowns super creepy. He's coming from a place of, I'm sick of having to be around people on their worst days. Although for me, a clown would make it my worst day. I'm just putting it out there. I feel like this is a very superficial way to dump somebody, is I want to make people happy, blah, blah, blah. And if you were a part of a relationship and that's, as you move forward, it could turn into, well, clowns aren't the way to go, but like, actually you're a really good comedian. Why don't you try stand-up comedy? Why don't you try this or that? But like, I just think it's kind of shitty. That's me personally. At the very end of the day, like you said, nobody has a bad episode. I'm pulling at, who would I have to say?
I think Fran just wants to get laid. And
girl, get laid and then dump him then. Come on.
She doesn't want to have sex with the clown. No, I'm kidding. Cool. So that was, this episode.
Yeah, that would be annoying if he was like going, honka, honka.
He's just grabbing her boobs and they're, there you go. Just grabbing her boobs and making this sound.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate that image is now in my head.
And with that said,
with that said, speaking of speaking of squeaky toy boobs, let's talk about Claire. Where we go previously on Lost. That one wasn't as good. Let me try it again.
Yeah. I was gonna say it was a little weak.
Previously on Lost.
Okay, good one.
Yeah,
the tone was there. The
tone was there. Previously on Lost.
All right, previously on Lost, Beth lost her damn mind watching this episode. Like, honestly, sometime we should just record us watching it just to put in clips of our reactions, not actually of what we're watching.
Agreed.
As like bonus content, because first of all, I was screaming at midnight last night.
You got out of your chair. You were so mad.
I was so fucking mad at this episode, and not because like it's a bad episode. It's actually really well written and everything. It's just like, oh my god, it's so frustrating. And I think a lot of it too, I'm just exacerbated by this, like, is Roe versus Wade going to be repealed. Like this is an actual dilemma that we're having with like interfering with women's health. Simultaneously, the same party, and currently I'm going to go on a political rant right now. And, this is just the same party who is saying you should not be interfering with people's physical health or people's ability to make their own health decisions when it comes to having a vaccine and requiring people to be vaccinated unless they're going to have a baby, in which case we need to absolutely make sure that we interfere with everything that's going on with their lives. Like, fuck off. Like, this is, and it's always fucking men who are making these decisions too. Like, it's never a fucking woman who's in power saying this kind of shit. It's always fucking men, or it's women doing that as a prop of men. This is what drives me fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So we get to this episode. It's a Claire-centered episode. As we know, Claire is ready to pop anytime with her baby.
Yep.
And I have had so many theories for those that haven't been listening. I have so many theories about this baby.
I can't wait to hear.
I had the theory that the baby actually died, and then once she started getting sustenance from the island, that's when he started kicking again. It was after Jen had given him or given her, which she calls the baby a him. So I don't know if she knows it's a boy or not, or she just assumes. But she said, "Oh, he started kicking." So my theory is because this island seems to be, I don't even know what to call it. I keep calling it like a purgatory, a waiting place or something, where like I feel like the baby has been corrupted by the island, also known as like the other force or whatever. So like I said that last episode, and this has only intensified my thoughts about it here, because we have plenty to get into that goes along with it.
Oh yeah.
So we start off the episode.
Oh wait, but before we get into that, I just want to know what's your rating, just in case we're keeping track of it.
Okay. My rating for this episode, my personal feelings are good. I'm going to go for a 9 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I don't think I can quite give it to the Saeed last episode. Like there was a lot that was, anyway, this is a great episode. It's an infuriating episode. And, one of the things that Dylan and I, we try not to talk about it. I could not have been brought down. Like not even, we always watch Lost first and then The Nanny, which is opposite how we cover it here. Not even an episode of The Nanny brought down the blood boiling for me. Like I was like so infuriated. I went to bed last night and I like kept thinking about like, I was so mad. So here I am, this is therapy. But we start off the episode with Claire, in a dream. We don't know it's a dream at first. She kind of wakes up, and what I thought was interesting, whatever blanket that she was wearing was white and had red spots on it. So I wondered if she had bled and like had given birth and we didn't see it or something like that. But then when you get to see the blanket, it actually just looks like they are like big flowers or something. And she has this dream where she's no longer pregnant and she hears a baby crying and she like knows it's her child, like immediately. And so she goes running through the jungle trying to find this child, and she comes across Locke, who's, I can't tell what he was doing. He had a couple crystals and some cards, like maybe tarot cards or something.
So I didn't notice this on my first viewing of this. In this viewing, I think he's either A, playing solitaire.
Okay.
Or B, it is in fact tarot cards similar to the psychic from her flashback.
So this is exactly what I was going to get at, is that Locke, I think in this represents a bridge between the others and the people. So like last episode when we learned about the others, I don't know who the others are, but they're obviously the kind of force that are making people sick on the island, or they're people who have been sick and have been taken by the island. Okay. My theory is that Locke is the first one. Of the people who crashed, who are a part of the because we saw him stare into whatever that beast was. We learn episode that there is no beast, and that he says that he stared into the soul of the island. You have to give in order to get. And so what we also see here is that Locke's eyes are black and white. He had just like this whole black and white theme. So Locke, I think, is representing choice in this situation, because what we hear Locke say to Claire, which is very important throughout her backstory, is you made a choice and now you have to live with it. Like, you made the choice, And here we're going to go. And what we find out through this backstory is that Claire finds out that she is pregnant and her boyfriend, Thomas, is the one that says, we can do this. Like, let's have a baby together. I want to do it, blah, blah, blah. So she moves in with him. And then when she's far enough along, I think she's about 6 months or so, he breaks.
I think it had only been 3 months at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and she was 6 weeks late. So it would be she'd be in her second trimester. So regardless, so he breaks up with her and says, you know what, this isn't working. You knew it wasn't working. She's like, well, you're the one who told me that we should have the baby. And he was like, I was wrong. I don't want to do this now. And I'm like, this is why men, I don't even give a shit if it is your child biologically. I am firmly of the belief that you do not get a say. You get to maybe have an opinion, but you do not get to coerce. You do not get a say in what a woman does with her fucking body, because you might one day, because you don't have to feel what it's like in order to carry a child. You don't have to feel what it's like in order to constantly be sacrificing your body for like the child that you will bring into the world. You don't get to go through that. You get to hold the baby at the very end of it. You get to come in a woman and give her a fucking cream pie, and then that's about it. Like, you don't get to do shit until that baby comes, right? Yeah, you don't have to do anything. And even when the baby comes, you don't have to do anything. Like, you could just step and walk away. Now, obviously, society will shun you for that kind of stuff. Well, obviously not too much. And like, the point here is like, he basically is the reason why she decided to keep the baby. She was clearly not thinking that she wanted to. He tells her, no, we can do this. And then a few months later goes, I'm walking out. So he walks out on the baby, which, anyway. So then Claire goes and sees a psychic that her friend told her to go see. So she goes in and he holds her hands and immediately said, oh, when did you find out about the baby? And she said 2 days ago. And then he drops her hands. He clearly sees something and says, I can't help you. You got to get out. You got to get out now. And so she leaves. And then Thomas breaks up with her after that. And then after Thomas breaks up with her, she goes back to the psychic and said, I know that you couldn't do the reading before. I really want you to try now. He does something. He said, well, I saw something blurry and it's not good.
That's a bad sign.
It's a bad sign.
You don't want to see something blurry.
And she was like, can you just do it anyway? So he says, he says, okay, when did he leave you? And she said, like a week ago. And he said, okay. And then, so clearly he knows things about her, right? So like through the reading and such. So he's either a legit psychic or he's got this kind of this. I'm so excited. Okay, so
theorize away. I just get into this. No, I love seeing you like get excited about theories and like all this kind of stuff. Like it's awesome.
So then he sees that the child is not going to. The child is a bad force, but needs Claire's good nature in order to raise him. And he says like, this child like needs you have to raise this child. If you don't raise this child, it will be horrible. Like I don't know if he says for the world. I think he just says in general, it's just going to be horrible.
Yeah. I think it's kind of left up to interpretation. So but basically what he's trying to get across is you need to raise this child. Otherwise, really bad shit's going to happen, whether that is in terms of the child, like bad things are going to happen to the child, bad things might happen to you, or bad things might happen to the world in general if this kid is not, if you do not take care of this kid. So
at first I was like, this bitch knows she's got to raise a child, another thing. And then I got really upset because I was like, here's yet another fucking man telling her to do her child. Like, are we friggin' kidding? Like, and like, I think it's a healthy. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's I mean, that was clear that the writers were trying to get that point across, because like even on the island, it happens with like Charlie and Jack and the way that they speak to Claire, as if they know better than Claire does for her own baby and body. And so like, I got it. I was like, they got that message across really
100%. So like one of the biggest like overarching themes of this is like men telling a woman something about her body or like what she's seen or what she has experienced and like invalidating and all these different kinds of things. It's like a controlling nature.
So I have a fun fact.
Okay.
This is, I believe, the first episode of season 1 written by a woman. And you can clearly tell, I think you can clearly tell based off the messaging within it, like the point that was trying to be made here. Sadly, the only episode that Lynn Elliott ever wrote for Lost was this one.
Is this the only episode that's ever written by a woman?
No.
Oh,
I believe that there are many other episodes written by women.
Well, Lynn, good job. Thank you for getting me all up in my feels, but also like, thank you for the symbolism. Anyway, so the psychic basically says like, you have to raise this child. You have to raise this child. And she's like, well, I've already made the decision to give this child up for adoption. And he apparently keeps calling her and bugging her and saying like, no, you have to raise this child. You have to raise this child. But I've come up with a plan of something that you can do as long as you don't give the child up for adoption. So she goes to meet with the couple that is clearly going to be adopting her child. They've promised her like a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment, all this other stuff, but that she is not allowed in any way, shape, or form unless through written consent from the family to have any kind of connection, knowledge, or communication with this child. Unless they reach out to her, she's not allowed to reach out to them, kind of thing.
Yep.
So she goes to sign and the one pen doesn't work. She gets the other pen and then she decides, I can't do this. And clearly this is what the psychic is telling her in the back of her head has gotten to her in this moment. So and also there's a moment where she says, do you know the song Catch a Falling Star and Put It in My Pocket, Put It in Your Pocket? And the mother, the adoptive mother says, oh, yes, I know that. And she goes, well, my father used to sing that to me before. Would you maybe sing that to the baby? And she said, yeah, we can do that. And then she can't sign. And I think that's the moment where she's realizing like, I have thoughts and needs for this child. And then also the psychic in the back of the head is like, getting to her. So she decides I can't do this. And so she goes to meet with the psychic and the psychic says, I found a plan around this. There's a couple in Los Angeles. I'm going to give you half of the money now, which is $12,000. You're going to get $6,000 now. You get $6,000 when you're in Los Angeles. They're good people. They're exactly what this child needs, but you have to be on this specific flight. So he clearly knew that there was no family in Los Angeles. He needed her to get on this flight because he knew that something was going to happen. She was going to go to this island, that there was going to be a crash. This leads me to believe that he's not actually a psychic. He's some other, like he's an other and he's in Australia. So like the others are among us here in this world, but he knew that this was going to get this child to the island. And I think that he knew that. I thought at first maybe the child was an other and he was like, oh my God, like we can't have the child born here in some capacity. But now I think he sees that this child is important to the others and needs her to give birth to the child on the island. So I think that that's what my theory is there. Because here's my thing I caught. Okay. The psychic says you mustn't an other raise the baby. You mustn't have an other. He says an other. So he tells her an other can't raise your baby. So then I got thinking, maybe he's not an other, but maybe he's escaped this island.
Okay.
And knows that this baby is good to go against the others, but they can't be the ones that raise the baby. And Claire's got to be there to do it because Claire's good nature has to be the reason why this child raises. So there's weird connections between this psychic. I don't think that this guy's psychic. I think he just knows something about this island, whether he's escaped it or whatever. Yeah. He's also a creepy ass motherfucker. So he's just the way he looks.
And the way that he like continuously pressures her for months over the phone and is like constantly calling her being like, I know I keep calling you, but I have to tell you like what you need to do with this baby. And she's like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like you're creepy.
Absolutely. Okay. So here's the other part of this, which it starts off as kind of like weird and funny is that Hurley decides after Claire wakes up the second night, like where it was I'm kind of mad because I looked down at the moment that the guy grabbed her and tried to like do something to the child when she was sleeping. So I only saw like a hand for a split second, but I didn't actually see what happened in the split second because I was writing. But Claire has, when she wakes up from her dream the first time, apparently she had been sleepwalking and she's like screaming, like screaming bloody hands in the air to this actress.
Real. I was about to say, I was like,
girl,
she can
scream.
Scream queen. Absolute scream queen.
Move over Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, my goodness. She is a scream queen. She can scream like no other. She's a great job. So,
props to Emile de Raven. I don't know how to say your name. Emily de Raven. Work, bitch.
Good job. So then she has another dream, quote unquote, where she's sleeping and this guy like covers her mouth. Yep. And I think he does something else, but that's when I wasn't looking. So can you like?
Yeah. So it's very quick. Like it's purposely shot like to be chaotic. I think there's like a hand over her mouth. Mm-hmm. There's like a scalpel or like there's tools that are quickly shown. And then it like her waking up and like being freaked out. Like it was like bam, bam, bam. That's all it was.
And here's my thought. Okay. So again, I have like 6 theories that are all like against each other. So like, I know it must be like,
I want to hear them all.
It's confusing. I still think the child died and came back to life. Okay. I don't think that the psychic saw, if the psychic is good and maybe this child is the key to like fixing this island or something, like maybe that's what he's doing. Maybe he doesn't see that the child dies and therefore becomes like an other. I think that the person, we clearly know at the end of the episode who did this to her, because the whole point of me getting to this is that Hurley decides to do kind of like a census of everybody who's there, like who they are, where they're from, that kind of thing. He checks it against the manuscript, which is what everybody, it's all the information of everybody who was on the flight. He finds out there's one more person that's with so them. Creepy. At the same time, we find out what's the guy's name who's creepy and is actually Ethan. So Ethan, who I have said is a creepy mofo. His eyes really freak me out. Like, he's somebody that if I saw him come, I would cross the street. Like, I mean, just putting it out there. He's a creepy mofo. He goes to, it's apparent that he is not, he's the person who's the extra, or at least that's how the show sets it up. Because when Claire goes into like this, like, labor or false pregnancy or false labor, or whatever at the very end, Charlie runs down the path, runs into Ethan and says, you know, Claire, she's having her baby, go get Jack. And like, just the way that he acted in that moment, I wouldn't have left. I would have just continued on if I were Charlie, because he just, first of all, he just kind of takes a second and like, it's like
Claire? He's like, oh, Claire? Yeah.
Oh, Claire. Yeah.
Is she all right? Like,
yeah. Is she okay? Oh no, she's having her baby. But like, you can see the wheels turning in this guy's head. Like most people would be like, oh, I'll go get the doctor. Like, everybody knows who Jack is at this point. Like, why do you have to be told at this point that you have to go get the doctor? So he like, it takes him a delayed second to be like, I shall throw this stuff down, like this stack of wood. And he kind of like slowly turns and runs. Like, Charlie wouldn't even have to get the sentence out of my mouth and I'd be running the other direction. Like, it takes him far too long to like make a decision. And that is what the first thing was that ticked me off, that something's not right about this guy in this scene. And then Claire stands up. She's like, I think it's over. And Charlie's like, oh, that's great. And so they stand up. And then right after, Saeed comes back and he says, you have to listen to me. We are not alone on this island. Hurley says there's one extra person. And then it cuts over. And that creepy mofo Ethan is just looking like this.
He's just staring at Claire.
And his eyes are black. Like, it's scary. They're not totally blacked out, but they're like very deep.
Oh yeah. Like, he has plans for sure. Like,
it is creepy. And in that moment it's clear, like, he's the one who's like the extra. I think he's an other person. Okay. And I think that they're trying to get the baby because the baby belongs to them as others. And so whatever he did, let's remember, like a lot of what these others potentially have done does not leave a trace. Like, like also people's wounds are healing really quickly. So who's to say that he didn't cut into Claire and it just really healed very quickly, as we saw a variety of different. And then, actually, this is, now I'm just thinking about this. This makes no sense. Sorry, I'm just going off on tangents now.
Go for it. This is us. This was us, like, fans of Lost. This was us after this episode being like, what the fuck? Like, freaking out. Like,
so here's the other thing. Why is Saeed's leg all of a sudden stabbed again when it wasn't when he was with Danielle? Like, he had the thing that went into his leg, he took it out, and then he apparently wasn't bleeding anymore, but now he is bleeding, but it looked like he was healed at the end of last episode. So what's going on there? Am I just missing something?
I think what we are meant to think, and I this is how I took it, is the scenes from the last episode with the cable. When he found the cable, I like to think that was like a day or two later, like a day or two after he had left the beach. Then he found Danielle Rousseau's camp. He probably stayed there and was unconscious for about another day or two,
right?
Or maybe even 3, almost up to a week. Him going from there to the beach, I felt like was the same day. Like, so I feel like there was like a dilation of time where they were like, because Saeed's episode, there seemed to have been many days that had passed.
Correct. But my point is, like, Michael can get gored by a boar and have that healed instantly, essentially. Yeah,
it's true.
Charlie can get gored by a boar and have that get healed relatively quickly.
Absolutely.
And Saeed's leg seemingly was fine at the end of last episode, even though he was like ran into something when he was hanging up in the trap, and he pulled it out. And I had the whole rant last episode, like, why are you pulling out shit? Like, but apparently now it's just bleeding a lot again. And I'm like, okay, but like, it's the same kind of injury that both Michael and Charlie had. And also Charlie is miraculously just clean now. Like, it's just like, it only took him 72 hours tops. Like, there's these things where, like, there's obviously a force of the island in some capacity. And I think that this is the island's way of trying to slow Saeed down because he knows something to bring back to another group. Like, I think that's what it is.
Absolutely. That is a great theory. I want to ask you a few questions specifically about this episode to get your thoughts on it, theories. So let's go with the mindset that if the psychic is real, like if he actually has psychic abilities, he mentions that he sees a blur. What do you think the blur is?
I think the blur is like this realm, really, like this idea that is a blur for many people is like, you can't make sense of it because it's not like perfectly in focus. And when something's in focus, you can make kind of a black or white decision about it. But a blur is kind of a gray area. And so this blur, this gray area, I think represents the islands or the others, or these kind of like this force that doesn't seem to be about life or death, that is kind of like in between.
That's that's a great, I love that.
By the way, I just feel like I'm back in liberal arts school, just bullshitting everything I do.
I love it. I love it. That's basically all the Lost. That's all Lost is.
I love
liberal arts majors just arguing.
Can we also? I need to yell at Jack here for a second.
Go for it, please. Oh my God, I was waiting for us to talk about Jack in this episode.
Can we get into the fact? This is the first time he's asking about Claire's pregnancy, OBGYN, and they've been on the island for at least 2-3 weeks now, okay?
It feels like yeah.
You haven't asked the pregnant woman on the edge of giving birth, first of all, how her child seems to be doing. Like, if you're not checking in daily with her, fuck you for being all about, let's get in a cave. No, fucking work with a pregnant bitch, you dumb bro. Like, what the hell? Like, I literally wrote, what a shitty doctor. Like, I'm like, no, it's like, are we kidding?
Absolutely. No, I think that this is why I like how Lynn wrote this episode, because we're it's not just men telling women what to do with their body. It's the different layers of how men tell women what to do with their body. So like you have the overt partner who wants to step out of the relationship and not take care of the kid.
After being the reason why she's even having the kid in the first place. But both physically the reason, because got her pregnant, but also manipulating in like an emotional way. You
have this older white man who is obsessed with what she does with this kid to the point where he is bugging her for months upon months upon months. You have the doctor that doesn't believe what the pregnant woman is saying about how she feels and like what she's going through.
Yes. And even when he's questioning her, it was like, your doctor gave you permission to get on a plane. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Bitch.
He's like constantly like,
he's condescending as hell.
Yeah. And then while Charlie means well, he is overly protective of what she can and can't do. So like she's getting up, she's like, I'm leaving. I don't feel comfortable being in these caves with this man talking to her. And they're all like, you can't leave. And she's like, watch me fucking leave. I have 2 legs. I can get the fuck out of here. Like it's, and I love Lynn. You did it. Like, I love it.
And here's the other thing too. I fucking hate this. And it's not just men, but men do it a lot. I will say this. This might seem so small, but it just really hit me. The conversation where Charlie says, I could be a friend to you. And then she says, Charlie. And then he gets up and just kind of like walks away very passive aggressively. I'm like, that is someone like, I'm sorry. I don't believe in the quote unquote friend zone. That is something that is just there because the fucking patriarchy just wants people to get laid when they want to, not because they want women to want to get laid. It is, if you cannot have a relationship with somebody, with a woman, without the idea of having sex with them being your end goal, then you are a misogynistic fucking pig who does not deserve to have any kind of fucking relationship with people. Yes, I'm talking about you, Charlie, in this moment. Well, fuck all the way off.
Yeah, it's not just that, but it's also the fact that like she's clearly going through some shit. Now is not the time to flirt with her and ask if you want to build something with her. Like,
and also like
through a lot.
Like this is the time that if you truly wanted to be a friend, if she goes, Charlie, you could be like, I totally get it. Like if there's something I can do to help, please let me know. Do you need space right now? And if she says yes, then say, okay, I'm gonna get up and go. I'm just gonna be over there. But if you need anything, let me know. Blah, blah. That's being a friend. You don't get up and be all passive aggressive and make her feel like she's the one that's doing this to you. Fuck off. You totally get gaslit the entire situation there. So fuck all the way off. I don't understand how Charlie is I'm going to put it out there. I don't like Charlie at all. I have not liked him this entire time. I don't understand how he's a fan favorite.
So
he's a piece of shit.
I can't explain why he's a fan favorite.
Don't tell me. But I'm saying at this point at episode 10 of the first season, I don't get it.
I will go on record and say I agree with you. Charlie is actually one of my least favorite characters within Lost. But I can't argue why. I can't argue my points. But I completely agree with you. I actually don't like Charlie as a character.
I was trying to think.
It's examples like this.
I'm going to be honest. I started thinking about this last night because I was thinking like, oh, well, Charlie's supposed to be a fan favorite. And then I looked at it and I was like, I don't even know if I like anybody on the show, like truly like them. And then, okay, so now this is connecting. Maybe the reason why I don't like everybody in particular is because there's a reason why they're all on this island, because they're all pieces of shit. And then this is how they're supposed to like work through it.
Potentially.
Purgatory. Purgatory.
That's like purgatory theory.
I
will say, all these characters are purposely written to be gray. Like, I think
that's important. It's not like, okay, this is where we have to say,
it's a
there's
show.
A huge difference between Lost and the Nanny, where we are supposed to even like the people we don't like Cece, like we're still gonna like them because of what they bring to the show or whatever, right? Yeah. Like everybody's likable and written in the best of ways, even through their faults, is like fun and funny and that kind of thing. On the Nanny, it's not supposed to be this way. And people in real life, I'm sure that people listening to this podcast are going, Beth, what the fuck you know? Like, or Beth, I don't believe the way you do. Who are you, you piece of shit? Like, that's totally fine. And you know what? And you're wrong. But no.
You dumb bitch. I love it.
Wait, time out. I was the other day we were celebrating my brother's birthday.
Yeah.
And I had only had like 2 drinks at this point, all right? And I looked across the table and I was trying to address him and I went, Beth, you can't even say that. And he went, did you just call me Beth? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, you just called another person your own name. That's the most ego thing that I was like, that is the most Leo thing I've ever done in my life. So here we
That
are.
is so funny.
Sorry.
I want to also, first off, I want to talk more about the census. Because I think like it was written on the wall when you saw like how Ethan reacted to Hurley doing the census. He's like, hey, what is this for? He's like kind of like wants to inquire. He's like, hey, what is this something important? Like what?
But also, Hurley, everybody else said the city they were from. He said Ontario. That is a province. That's like saying I'm from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Like, where in Oklahoma? Give me more details.
Yeah.
Where in Ontario?
I think Ethan got lucky in this regard because Hurley had already gotten exhausted asking everyone else that was on the beach, that by the time he got to Ethan, he was just like, what's your name? Where are you from? Bye. Because that's what he does. He's like, where are you from? Okay, cool. That's enough. And then he just kind of like walks away.
Also, every time we see Ethan, he's collecting wood.
It's true. But I just
realized that.
I think it's because, or he's always out in the jungle doing something, which I think is another interesting thing to bring up because I can't think of a time we've seen him on the beach. I can't. Like he's always either in the cave because he came into the cave.
To be fair, I felt like last episode was the first time we saw him, right?
It was the first time we saw him. But that's what I'm saying is like, even as an extra, we did not see him on the beach. Like,
I wasn't paying attention to the people in the background. I'll be 100% honest.
I'll let you know. After season 1, they are very inconsistent with the extras, and like,
okay.
Yeah. So the first season, they are very consistent, which I really appreciated. Like every extra was cast to stick around for the rest of the first season because they wanted to have consistency between who was a castaway and who wasn't. So there's literally Wikipedia entries for the extras because they show up in multiple episodes. Past season 1, they say, nah, and they just cast whoever to be like the extra castaways because there's a significant time difference between the first season when they filmed in the second season, and they probably I don't know, there is some consistency between like some of the extras, but you can clearly tell it's like one of those things where they like recast a character but it's a different actor. It's kind of like that with the extras where you're kind of like like there's 40 some people that are like a part of this, like so just don't expect consistency with like background people.
Gotcha.
But in this sense, specifically for Ethan, because he had a speaking role, I did find it interesting that when you say that he's always gathering wood, he was always gathering wood. Do you think that he was always gathering wood because it's close to where Claire is in the caves? Because
now that you said that we haven't really seen him on the beach, that is very interesting because Claire said people told me to come to the caves because it'd be safer and I was safer out on the beach. And it's kind of a throwaway line, but it very well could be like, for whatever reason, maybe the others can't be on the beach area.
I mean,
but that's not true. If I think, because my theory is that Jack's father might be an other of some sort. And we saw him on the beach, but he always walked into the woods. So like, I feel like there's something like maybe the dead are like in cahoots with these quote unquote others, but they're not others.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is because you had referred to Jack's father as an other before. Do you think that there is a delineation between others, these whispers, the dead that are potentially on this island? Like, how do you see these in your head? Like if they are circles, what are they?
So I'm starting to, I think I said this last time in the last episode, specifically talking about the others. And now I'm kind of, as I'm sitting here kind of talking through my theories and such, I'm starting to think that this is somewhat more similar to like a Bird Box situation where like the dead are a force of whatever the others are, but like the others are like the people in Bird Box who like can look up and go like essentially crazy with whatever image it is there, but they become like basically like quote unquote prophets of whatever it is that actually makes other people kill themselves. And so like,
Got it.
and I think that like we have clearly seen 2 people now die on the island. We saw the pilot
Yep.
get killed and like flayed and all that kind of stuff. And maybe it's because he like, I don't know. I don't know how to word this. I don't know how to word it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like maybe it's just like he didn't have a strong enough resolve.
Okay.
Or he has too strong, like he can't, or maybe his resolve is too strong. He wouldn't be corrupted by the others. So he dies instead. And the woman who drowns, she dies instead of like, but the people who are all here are like all here for a reason, I think. So
my next question is, if you are believing that this is a purgatory based off your theory, what happens when someone dies?
I think that well, so like in purgatory, so like talking about actual purgatory, although I say actual as if like it's a fact. We don't
I've been there, bitch. And it's cold.
It's called Target on Black Friday. That is a purgatory. So purgatory is like where you go if you still have something to work through in order to either ascend into heaven or descend into hell. Essentially, that's like what the Catholics essentially bring it. It's like the judgment place, the waiting place. It's like it's a sort of limbo in a way, but it's like you're there for quote unquote short amount of time, but you're there for as long as it takes. Whoever makes the decision of what you've done in your life and where you're going to spend eternity, essentially. And like Dante's Inferno is like all about Dante's journey through death. And so, he's in purgatory and then he descends into hell, but then he actually ends up ascending into heaven. So like he goes all the places. But regardless, I feel like when people die, that's when the judgment of them has been made and they go to wherever their true afterlife is. But this place is like you aren't fully dead and you aren't fully alive. And so those that have died aren't fully dead and they aren't fully alive. Like I'm specifically when I say dead, I mean like Jack's father, not like the pilot. I feel like those who die on the island, it's definitive.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I don't know.
I just got water all over my nose.
I know. And I'm so thirsty. I forgot to grab a seltzer and I'm just sitting here watching you drink boxed water. And I'm like,
okay. Fun fact, not sponsored. The only reason I'm drinking boxed water is because it reminded me of Twitch headquarters back where I used to like work in, and they used to always have these. So I bought it and I was like, the memories.
Memories like the corners of my mind. That's important for the nanny. Just putting it out there.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Do you know who sings that?
No.
Okay.
I don't even know the song.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
Okay. I'm trying to think of like any other last thoughts. So what do you think what are your predictions for what's going to happen next episode? Because we've very much hyped up next episode. I will tell you, it is a Jack-centric episode and it is called All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues. That's literally the name of the episode.
Okay. Well, interesting. The only other thing I want to bring up before I answer that is Kate doesn't really have much in this episode, but she does mention that mentions her mom.
Oh yeah, and she does.
And I think that's another like that's such a choice to put that one throwaway line in a mother to be centric episode. Agreed. So I don't know what that means. I don't have any theories about that. I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I just wrote Kate mentions mom and Claire centered episode. Symbolism?
Potentially, you never know. There was a few. Actually, I have another question for you. So you say that Locke is an other, correct? You think that he has become an other or something?
I don't know if he's an other yet. I think that you
Okay.
become an other over time, like you are infected by them. I think he's been infected by them, similar to like how
Like a sickness.
Danielle Rousseau has been talking about, like the sickness. And I think the sickness is not an actual physical illness. It's like a mental. That's what I think of like the people in Bird Box. Like they start to get like really sick with whatever it is that's making people kill themselves, but instead they're like putting like reverence upon it. So like I feel like he's really put a lot of reverence on here. The last part that made above this episode further confirmed it, the way that Locke was listening intently to when Saeed came back and when Hurley said something. Locke doesn't look like concerned for the island. He's like concerned about like, what did they find out? What are they going to spill about this place? It's like he has this intensity that's like he's nervous of what Saeed is going to say. Like, what has Saeed found out? And is this going to contradict? Because this island, he's like, I didn't find what I was looking for. It found me.
Yeah, he mentioned that in the census.
And he's said before to Charlie, like, you know, you have to give up something for this island to provide to you. Like he starts talking about this island in a very almost like fanatical way. And it's just, I really feel like he's at this point when you're talking about having to watch the people around you. I think people are going to think we have to watch Claire because she's really going like pregnancy mind, like blah, blah, blah. Really, they need to be watching Locke. And I still maintain that Locke might have been is still one of the two people I think might have knocked Saeed out a few episodes ago. Yeah. Because then he was really heavily pushing like, oh yeah, it must have been Sawyer. Like, it's not hard to put together a little time delay, like blah, 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 blah. Like,
yeah.
I really think Locke could be a force of the others. Like he's been infected and he's not an other yet, but he could be on his way. And then also, why is Locke the one that is symbolized in the dream that Claire is having? That's especially true. If the dream ends up being a dream to a certain extent. Like she's sleepwalking, but she's sleepwalking on a weird ass island. Who's to say that isn't a real thing at the same time? Where like the baby has been given up to the others already. And she hasn't given birth to it yet, but like she can't control because she made the decision to give the baby up. Now she's on this island. They fucking came and they took it, blah, blah, blah. Like all something.
Well, we'll have to see because next episode is a crazy one. It's gonna be a fun one, that's for sure. I know that.
I'm really excited about it. I do think what we're gonna start seeing is obviously the fallout is Claire and are Claire and Charlie gonna get like kidnapped? Or attacked by Ethan. What's happening here? Clearly, if it's a Jack-centered episode, then Jack is going to have to play a role. I believe the baby gets born somehow next week. I don't know if the baby lives or dies or is in the purgatory state or whatever. I do think that that's what obviously it's going to happen. I feel like it's not through like the means of actually giving birth, but more like we have to force this baby out of you now kind of thing. Like for whatever reason. So I feel like Jack is going to once again have to be faced with like his moral dilemmas of what he would normally do as a doctor. Like that's what I think is going to happen.
That's smart. Okay.
And I just thought of one other thing that I thought was interesting. Like last week we talked about how the storytelling of like the flashbacks was different for Saeed than it had been other times. I caught something that was really unique that we hadn't seen yet with the Claire flashbacks, which is that in her last flashback, it was like she was telling Charlie the story because Charlie just jumps in as if she had just told him everything. And we haven't seen that where like all of a sudden you came back from a flashback and everything you just learned, a character just learned as if that person has been speaking about it.
That's a great observation. I never noticed that, but you're right. Yeah, that is fully what happens there. Overall, crazy episode. And we had a lot to say and I hope y'all enjoyed that. I
still have to do my MVP and LVP.
Yeah. I was literally about to ask you that.
Okay.
But who is your MVP and LVP?
Okay. So MVP is Claire. Bitch, you better stick to those guns.
Absolutely.
LVP is literally all men. Like literally all men. Every single one. You better work with your suckiness. Like I mean, oh, it was so frustrating.
I can't
It was so
wait.
frustrating. And the problem is like they don't even talk to another woman in this whole fucking episode. Like every other woman has one or two lines. Like I've said this multiple times, like I do not like how this show has decided to showcase the very few women it has. Like they're all props for men. Like fuck
Absolutely. I think specifically in this episode was very purposeful.
Yeah, this episode was purposeful, and I am hopeful that what they have set up is also purposeful for a reason. But if they haven't, I'm like, can we please, like, I know it's the mid 2000s and we're a little bit more quote unquote woke now or whatever, but like, can we stop using women in like women's health and like all this other stuff as props for like pushing an agenda in the same way that like, can we stop like every time that we have like an LGBTQIA person like be the center through their trauma of their identity or like you know, why are we having like Black people always have to be like brutalized? Like could we just have people living their best lives and truths in a storytelling sense, and that where their identity is in the trauma they face through their identity is not their main storyline?
Yeah, agreed. Please.
I just like
let it be known. Make it happen,
just
please.
put it out there. But I am so excited to have Mike Bloom with us next week.
Oh my God. I'm so excited, y'all. And he knows his shit about Lost. So like
he knows his shit about, for those that don't know Mike Bloom, like he is like an encyclopedia of Survivor and Lost and Big Brother. He loves Drag Race. Like he's absolutely amazing. I'm
might
so
be my
excited.
friend.
Yeah, right.
No, but
I'm such a good one.
I'm excited because it's going to be so hard to not fangirl with Mike about this show and not spoil anything. Because I'm like, Mike, I want to talk to you about this. Oh, Mike, and we have to talk about that, and we can't. So we're gonna have to like batten down the mouths and make sure we don't say anything.
I'll have to make sure that that what we could do is for bonus content that I would not listen to. Maybe I'll duck out and you guys can have like a couple minutes to chat about a few things or whatever if you want.
I think if we were to do that, we'd have to schedule something in the future. Because if we were to talk, because my fear is people are watching the spoiler free. I don't want people to like.
Good call.
Yeah.
Make it its own episode kind of thing.
Yeah. So we do have some viewer comments left on our YouTube channel. Reminder, if you want to have your comment read here on a future episode of Hot Mess Moments, make sure to hop onto that YouTube channel and leave us a spicy, silly little comment. Or you can tweet at myself at 8-Bit Dylan if you have any comments about Lost specifically. And if you have any comments about The Nanny, you can contact Beth at AugustaWind11.
Specifically if you're Fran Drescher. Hi.
Yeah, Fran Drescher, please hit us up.
Honestly, that's just like, I've been in a perpetual state for 32 years of wanting to talk to Fran Drescher. So
Fran Drescher slapped me. I'll allow
also, Charles Shaughnessy was in my dream last night randomly. And I think it's because like we watched The Nanny last night. But he was himself, not Maxwell. I was honestly, like, oh my God, are you Charles Shaughnessy? He was like, yeah. I was like, nice to meet you. That was the extent of my dream. It was like,
Charles Shaughnessy, you can slap me too.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
What?
Oh my God. I can't believe I even said this. So I discovered that there are episodes of Happily Divorced, which was Fran's third sitcom. And she always, with Living with Fran, which was the second sitcom, and then Happily Divorced, both of them are based off of things that have happened in her life. I totally forgot that she apparently, I've never watched both of the shows like all the way through, but she always tries to find like little like wink, wink, nudge, nudge to The Nanny. And there was an episode that Charles Shaughnessy was a guest star in.
Oh.
And I need to have you watch it because it gives absolutely no spoilers about anything for The Nanny. You need to watch it, bitch. I died. I need to watch it again. I watched it this weekend.
Will I be horny for Maxwell in it?
Yes.
Okay. Then I need to watch it.
Yes, bitch. Yes, bitch. Maybe we'll do a bonus episode where we just cover that or something, but it was so good. Anyway, continue.
So we have a few listener comments. So first, James Garrison says, what? Wait a minute. Beth's theory about Locke mind explosion emoji. I didn't even think about that, and it makes so much sense. Also, it makes me so excited for the next episode. One of my faves. Oh, girl, you're gonna get an earful from this one. It's a good one though. I think it's very well written, especially from like the perspective of a woman. Like
Totally.
it covers a lot.
I agree.
Angela says, "Bless you, Beth, and your high school friend squinting in the restroom with her hand mirror." XD. This is.
I just want to point out, not a friend of mine, just a classmate.
For those that didn't watch the last episode, we're talking about the third hole, and if you don't know what that is, go back and watch the last episode.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. Carrie Ann says, "I completely forgot about the Black Rock in the cable. This has become my Thursday must listen. Also, we are into the part where there are more questions than answers of Lost."
I don't know. I've given a
disagree.
lot of answers, and I don't know if I have the question correct.
So I'm going to get on a soapbox here. I completely disagree with this comment because this is like one of the known stereotypes of Lost is it never answers any questions. Hard disagree on that. I believe out of most mystery shows, especially by the end of it, I felt satisfied that most of my questions were answered within the show. And I feel like when people, and I'm not specifically calling out Carrie Ann here, I'm just saying like in general.
No. He's saying Carrie Ann, you're dumb. I heard it. Did you?
No, Carrie Ann, I love you.
Carrie Ann, we're gonna form a coalition against Dylan right now. You and me.
No, Carrie Ann. I play D&D with her. Yeah. So with Lost specifically, there is this mindset that it always is stumbling on itself, never answering anything. And I think clearly based off these first like 10 episodes that we've seen, it proposes a question and typically answers it pretty quickly. Yeah. Like specifically where it came down to the French woman. We were like, who is this French woman? Is she still around? A few episodes later, we found her. Like, I feel like it does that a lot. There are some like bigger overarching questions that are answered eventually. And I think it's a lot of either people skipping episodes or there's what happens a lot. I'm not going to spoil anything. There are people that watched the first season and then only watched the last season and didn't watch anything in between because a lot of people were like, well, I want to see how this show ends.
Okay, really but here's the thing. You can do that with a show like The Nanny. Like you're going to be brought up to speed what happens relatively quickly with that kind of thing. A show that is based off of mystery and suspense.
Yeah.
I don't get it. You know what? I had a friend who did the same thing with Game of Thrones. They watched the first season, then watched. They're like,
I did. That's me. I watched only the first season and the last season because I had to stay up to date with like what people were talking about. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Beth's about to go off.
I want you to know my mouse hovered over the leave studio button, and I tried. Okay, so here's the thing.
I don't own HBO. I didn't own HBO back then.
Educate yourself. You have it now, bitch. Go watch.
No, I'm good.
I read the books and then watched the show. So like the show had been on for 3 seasons, I think, at this point. And I went back and during one of my travel seasons when I was an admissions counselor, which meant I was on the road for 12 weeks, I read the first 4 books, 4 books. So each season 1 was book 1, season 2 was book 2, season 3 was the first half of book 3, season 4 was the second half. So I read the entire 3rd book and then was up to date with the TV show. So when I read books 4 and 5, I was ahead of the TV show, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, and then, eventually the show surpasses the books because George R. R. Martin has not finished Winds of Winter, and it's been 15
he's never
years.
Gonna. I don't think he's ever.
I think he is. No, I think it's done, and he is so mad that people have said that, he's gonna die before he finishes the books. Like he's on record for being really pissed about that. He's like, just because I'm an obese man doesn't mean I'm gonna die before I finish these books. I think he has finished the books and that they won't get released until he dies. I think he's that petty. And you know what? I'm kind of here for it. You better work, you petty bitch. Like you better come through with that. If he's like, here's the rest of the series, and now he doesn't have to hear them complain either. He just is dead. Like, what else are you gonna do? You know what I mean? Yeah. I think it's smart. I hope he does that, honestly. But I also want the book. So if you could release them now, I'd like that.
Yeah, send it over to Beth. She'll proofread for you.
Yeah. You add an extra period here. That's about it.
Take some photos,
Yeah. Anyway.
So yeah, that's Carrie Ann. Love you to death. Disagree with the comment. And then Jackie says, "Thank you both for another fun show. Some fun trivia." As the question of Niles' age continues, the actor who played Niles, Daniel Davis, is now 70 years old, and the actor who played John Locke, Terrence Quinn, is now 68. The characters didn't seem close in age to me. Also, cool fact, they both did guest stars on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
So I literally, not too long ago, actually, when I was watching that, because Dylan didn't watch the interview. I'm happy Dylan didn't watch the interview because there was major spoilers about what happens, and because they were talking about writing and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
So there were major spoilers of what happens in the Nanny in this interview, but I never knew that he was also on. What's the show that Angela Lansbury was the lead on? Murder, She Wrote?
Yeah, Murder, She Wrote, yeah.
He was on Murder, She Wrote for a little while.
Said Magnum PI.
Okay, Lucy Lou. We're going to have to keep track of how many things are just way off base, I would say. But he also worked very closely with Katharine Hepburn. Became good friends with her, which I didn't realize. And in this interview, he talked about how Katharine Hepburn came and visited his parents, and his mother had very bad dementia. And Katharine Hepburn came in for dinner and was chatting with him and his father and said, "Can I go talk to your mother?" And he said, "I think she's sleeping upstairs, but we're not going to say no to Katharine Hepburn coming up and talking, whatever." So she goes up and she spoke with his mother for a couple hours in the middle of the night. And then, went on her way. And then when Daniel the next morning was talking to his mom, she was like, "I had the weirdest dream that I spoke with Katharine Hepburn." And he was like, "That wasn't a dream." And she goes, "Oh, I wish I could remember what I said." And so part of that was the dementia, also being the middle of the night. But apparently she was just incredibly amazing to him and his family and such. So I thought that was so nice.
That's so sweet.
Also, I just want to put it out there. If anybody cares, pretty much the entire cast of The Nanny, Sylvia Fine, the three kids. Well, I don't know if Benjamin Salisbury, who played Brighton's on there, but Charles Shaughnessy, Fran Drescher, all these people are all on Cameo. If you ever if you're a big fan, go support them in that way. If you want to get a message or something, most of them are $60 or into the hundreds and such. But Daniel Davis is $40.
Wait,
what?
Can someone? Don't actually do it. Can someone get a cameo of Charles Shaughnessy saying "horny" for Maxwell?
He'll do it. I guarantee it. He's so liberal and awesome. It's so funny because he plays in the show this stuffy Republican British dude who's in real life he's essentially a bleeding heart liberal hippie man. It's so amazing. I love it.
That's so funny. Yeah, horny for Maxwell or something. That'd be so funny. But
let's crowdsource this, people. Let's do it.
Thank you all so much for watching. I don't want to. We have to end on that note.
How many times are we going to say #horny for Maxwell when Mike Bloom's on the show next week?
Oh, a lot. And
okay, good.
Wait, has he ever seen The Nanny?
I don't know. I'm interested too. I'm pretty sure he has. I feel like he's watched every show there's ever been on television. So
okay.
But I'll chat with him about it because I think it will be fun if he has never seen The Nanny and we just bring him into an episode. What are your thoughts as an absolutely new person who's not watched any of season 1? What are your thoughts?
Agreed. He's just be what the fuck? But thank you guys so much and everyone for tuning in. It means a lot for all the support for our first 10 episodes. If you want, please consider sharing us with all of your friends and family who are fans of The Nanny.
But ask for my consent first because I don't just like to be shared immediately.
I don't. So just share away. Share me everywhere. And also, if you please have time, go to our Apple Podcast page and leave a review, specifically a written review if you could. It helps us out a ton, helps boost
It
us
could be
up
one
in the
line.
algorithm.
It could be Beth is so beautiful. It could just literally say that.
It could also say, this podcast sounds like it's for bottoms. Or
That's also accurate.
Whatever. Like
Only
Apple
accurate statements. Beth is beautiful and this podcast is for bottoms. There you go. We just wrote you the review.
There you go. Perfect. No, but please consider leaving us a review. It helps us out a ton. Make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube if you want the video version. Consider subscribing to us on YouTube. And until next time, toodles.
Toodaloo.
Toodles.